Have you ever heard of a mega project that promised to be the world's tallest, longest, or most technologically advanced, but never came to fruition? Perhaps it was an ambitious plan that ran out of funding or faced insurmountable technical challenges. Or maybe it was a grand idea that was simply too ahead of its time. Whatever the reason, these unrealized mega projects still capture our imagination and make us wonder what could have been. In this video, we'll explore some of the most insane mega projects that were never built, from a towering skyscraper that would dwarf the Burj Khalifa to a massive airport that would seem like a manifestation of a dream. So buckle up and get ready to be amazed by the insane mega projects that were never built. Before we continue, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Top Luxury. Number 6. New York Dream Airport. Picture this. You're standing at the heart of a bustling city, surrounded by the excitement and energy that only New York can provide. And then you hear it. The roar of engines, the whoosh of air, and the thrill of adventure. Welcome to the New York Dream Airport, a mega project that was set to revolutionize our thinking about air travel. This ambitious undertaking promises to be a true feat of engineering, design, and innovation, and it's sure to leave visitors awestruck. The idea was proposed by one of the most successful real estate developers, William Zeckendorf. The rooftop airport above Manhattan was supposed to solve the traveling crisis for the citizens in the early 1940s. The only airports in the city were at the far-end corners. Arriving at the airport was quite a hassle. The distance was long and people had to travel across the city, and Midtown Manhattan Airport seemed to be the solution. In those times, New York had unusually large traffic due to a high number of residents. Constructing an airport on top would have been a disaster. Not only would it have increased the already frustrating traffic loads, but it would have also been a nuisance for the people. The noise of the aircraft and airport construction would have caused headaches and fatigue for a lot of people. The 10-story airport was supposed to have a 70-meter-high deck. Covering an area of 144 Manhattan blocks, the airport was also envisioned to be an anchor for the ships in the Hudson River. If built, it would have changed the architecture of the current New York City. The cost of the plan was $3 billion back in the 1940s. Executing the plan would not have been a simple task. Land acquisition, clearing off the current building in 144 blocks, and then constructing the airport is perhaps the most complex process for completing a mega project. Number 5. The most iconic hotel. For the next mega project, we'll stay in New York. In the early 1900s, development in New York was booming. Skyscrapers, hotels, and stations were being built by leaps and bounds. Progress shone on every corner of the city. This was not the case with New York alone. It was time when the Singer Building came into being and became the tallest skyscraper, with a length of 150 meters. Other major cities of the world were also experiencing exponential growth. Architects all over the world were coming up with innovative designs, and Gaudi's masterpieces are part of this example. Antoni Gaudi was a Spanish architect, and his work was focused in a unique direction. He was a protege in creating attention to detail designs and curved buildings. His homage to Catalan culture and nature was exhibited in his design of Casa Mila and Casa Batlló. Impressed by his ingenuity, two businessmen 1908 from New York traveled to Barcelona and urged Gaudi to create an iconic hotel design for New York. The plan was to develop a 110-meter-high building with an exterior covered in glass and tiles. It was supposed to feature concert halls, fine dining restaurants, and exhibition centers. The plan for the unprecedentedly tall hotels was never finalized. Gaudi dedicated the last days of his life to developing the masterpiece known as Sagrada Familia. Gaudi worked on it for almost 43 years, and leaving the project or traveling to New York would render his efforts useless. Completing the hotel and finalizing the design does not seem to be done in the upcoming years, but had it been built, it would have been the most attractive hotel in the world. Number 4. The Mile-High Illinois Skyscraper. In the mid-20th century, as the United States was experiencing a post-war economic boom, architects and developers were constantly pushing the boundaries of what was possible in terms of building size and height. One such ambitious project was the Mile High, Illinois, a proposed skyscraper that would have reached a staggering 1 mile, 1,600 meters into the sky. The idea for the Mile High, Illinois was first conceived in 1956 by Frank Lloyd Wright, one of America's most renowned architects. The building was meant to be a vertical city, with enough space to house up to 100,000 people. The entire structure would be supported by a massive tripod-like base, with 3 legs that extended down on the ground. Although Mile High, Illinois was never built, it captured the public's imagination and sparked a debate about the limits of modern architecture. Some critics dismissed the project as a pipe dream, arguing that such a massive structure would be impossible to build with the technology of the time. Others saw it as a bold and visionary proposal that could transform the way we think about cities and urban design. Despite the controversy, the Mile High, Illinois remains a fascinating footnote in the history of American architecture. It represents a moment in time when anything seemed possible. Number 3. The tallest failed skyscraper. For our next mega project, we stay in Chicago to experience the fall of another great skyscraper. The Spire Chicago was designed by the renowned Spanish architect Santiago Calatrava in 2005. He has created some of the most iconic structures in the world, including the Turning Torso in Sweden and the Oculus at the World Trade Center in New York City. He proposed the design for the Spire in response to a request by the Irish developer Garrett Kelleher, who was seeking a unique and iconic addition to the Chicago skyline. Calatrava's design for the Spire was inspired by the form of a slender flower, with a spiraling shape that would rise over 2,000 feet into the air. The tower was to be clad in a sleek reflective glass skin that would shimmer in the sunlight, and its amenities would include a state-of-the-art fitness center, a pool, a restaurant, and even a private theater. The construction began in 2007, initiating the excavation process, but the road to completion was rocky to say the least. The project faced numerous setbacks, from zoning issues to financing problems. The global financial crisis of 2008 dealt a fatal blow to Spire's prospects. With the economy in turmoil, investors pulled out of the project, and construction ground to a halt once again. Number 2. The world's largest dome. The end of the Nazi regime put a final nail in the coffin of Hitler's violent and treacherous plans and megaprojects, including his vision of the planned city of Germania. In the 1930s, he laid the foundation to transform Berlin into a capital city that was meant to cross the east-west axis of Berlin. At the central axis, the Great Hall of Germania, the crowning jewel of Adolf Hitler's grandiose plan to transform Berlin into a city that was supposed to be developed. He developed the sketches himself after visiting the Pantheon in Rome. It was supposed to be 290 meters tall and 250 meters wide, with a capacity of 150,000 people. The gigantic hall was envisioned to be 17 times larger than the size of St. Peter's Hall Basilica. To make way for the Great Hall, much of the historic center of Berlin was to be demolished, including large parts of the Jewish quarter of the city. Thousands of people were forced to leave their homes to make way for the new construction. Construction on the Great Hall began in 1937, and it was one of the most ambitious construction projects of the Nazi regime. In 1945, after the end of Hitler's brutal regime, the plan for Germania was halted forever. Number 1. The Sphere Pyramid. For our last mega project, we travel back in time to the 18th century. The Sphere Pyramid was to be constructed in the honor of Sir Isaac Newton. The French architect Etienne Louis Boullé proposed this cenotaph that was supposed to be 150 meters tall and transcend the height of the Great Pyramid of Giza, the burial place of Egyptian pharaoh Khufu. The memorial pyramid of Sir Isaac Newton was intended to mimic his exceptional scientific contributions. The idea was to develop a planetarium with holes in the interior of the sphere to detect planets and constellations. A central lamp was also in the design to imitate the effect of the sun and capture the view of space through this pyramid. To this day, the cenotaph is an incredible idea, but it was way ahead of its time, and like other mega projects, it faced developmental constraints. Share your thoughts about these mega projects in the comments section below. Thank you for watching, and make sure to like this video. For more such amazing videos, subscribe to Luxuries Daily Input.